There you go. Well, now how do I know if it's being recorded?
Does it show it as?
Well, I think it is because it says I have the option to pause or
It says it up on the left corner of mine. It says it's
Great.
being recorded. So
Yeah, it is. It's working. I see that too.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed when I met with your dad, and your mom really kind of walked through occasionally and added to her 2 cents.
Picture it. I can picture that happening.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty great.
Janetta, she let me know that there's a lot more stories where that came from, of course. But he's an amazing man. And your family
Thank you.
in Duval. It's stunning. I especially enjoyed, is it your grandmother, your great grandmother that worked and knew the Native American?
Yeah, Grandma Jeanette.
Nettie.
Wow. Well, your names came up in discussion with like the Novelty Hill Barn. And I don't know if you know Nicole Cohen. Cohen.
Is she at the cemetery? Does she live next to the cemetery?
Yep. Recently, like within the last 2 or 3 months, she moved up there.
Yeah, so she came, we were advertising on the discussion board that we had some free cat supplies. And so she came and grabbed them, and we chatted in our driveway for a little while. She's very nice.
Yes, well, she's on our board too with this historical, and she's a writer, but she had been in and knew that something about the history or interacted. So, but if you'd rather, talk about growing up here or both or whatever, I know I don't want to take all of your time. So, like.
So if we talk about growing up here, it was a great childhood growing up on the farm. I think Stephanie and I both really had a chance to really live on the farm. And we had, my dad, as you know, he was is a veterinarian. He's kind of retired at this point, I believe. But we had cows, and that was a side thing that we did. And so we got to raise the cows, and we showed in 4-H, and we played on the farm. And then, we also have a younger brother, and he's 10 and 12 years younger, that are 10 and 13. Is that right? Do I have that right?
I was 9 when he was born, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're 9 and 12 years apart. But he didn't play as much on the farm, but Stephanie and we did. I think we had the full farm experience for sure, and it was great. So I think that's part of why we love our barn so much.
100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it's probably, given that we all live on the farm still, like it was a huge goal of ours to move back to the farm. Like for me, when I was living in Seattle in college and grad school, that eventually I wanted to move back because this is where I wanted to raise my kids. And I think that's because we had such an amazing childhood here on the farm.
Yeah. It was kind of like free ranging. You just could be anywhere, and we didn't have a lot of neighbor kids, but we had some. And one family, they were also a farm family, and we went back and forth, and we would, play at the river in the summers, probably in a way that we would never let our own children just free range.
Yes. Totally. Yeah, we would not do what we did as kids. We would not let our kids do that.
I know. Isn't that sad that we can't do that?
It is. I will say this.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I think the barn was really kind of the centerpiece of our childhood, because that's where we had all the animals, and that's where we could play, whether it was sunny or rainy. We could just spend hours over there making forts in the hay. We had a lot of chores, and so we would go over in the mornings before school and feed the cows and the babies, and we had some horses and llamas, and so it was definitely on the side. It wasn't like we were making a living off of the farm, but it really was kind of the centerpiece of our lives still.
Mhm.
And with Dad being a veterinarian, he would bring home animals. And usually it was a weird situation. And so it was like being on Dr. Doolittle's farm. So the baby llama that was in diapers in the house that was raised and would run around. And then I remember we had some calf that had a problem, and we knew it was not going to live a long life, but Dad brought it home. It was like a dog that would, at least one summer, I think. We didn't have that cow for very long. Just, lots of different animal experiences. And then our summers were all about 4-H and showing dairy cows. So we went to all the fairs, and there were some other shows.
For the sake of recording, maybe you should each introduce yourselves and tell your birthday and your parents' names again, and
okay.
And maybe about what school you grew up in, what schools.
Okay. I'll go first. I was born first. I can go first every once in a while. So I'm Suzanne Marie Pickering. My married name is Psycho. That's S as in Sam, I-K-O. And that's Hungarian. Pickering is very English. Mm-hmm. And I was born June 1st, 1971. And we were living in the valley at that time, but not on the farm yet. My dad was beginning his veterinarian career, and so we lived locally. Actually, I guess they did live on the farm, but not in the old farmhouse. And then my parents lived in Colville for a little while when I was tiny, and then moved to Enumclaw. And then we moved back. I was still pretty young when we came to the old farmhouse, and then we were set on the farm. I went to Cherry Valley Elementary, and did all of my education in the local school district. And
is that a new one? Because I live right by it.
No, it's the same school. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess it just looks newish, but it's right here.
Yep. But it's been added onto and remodeled. And if you were a kid at Cherry Valley, you experienced different, additions, and that was exciting. Oh, they're building a new addition and a new gym, and so I remember that growing up. So yeah.
Where did you go to high school and college then?
So so middle school and high school would have been Tolt Junior Senior High School. That's what it was, and it was all in Carnation, where Tolt Middle School is now. And then I have my BA in psychology from the University of Washington, and then a K-8 teaching certificate. So
and now you're married with 4 children, 4 boys.
Yes, I have 4 boys. Yep. My oldest is a graduating senior at Cedar Crest, so he's 18. I have twin boys who are 14, and then my youngest is 11. So, and I'm his teacher this year. So I'm teacher and mom, and we're all doing it here at home. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what an experience.
Yes.
Well, Stephanie, how about you? You're the younger one then.
I'm the younger of the 2 sisters. And then, like she said, we have a brother who was born when I was 9 and she was 12. But yeah, so I was born in 1974, May 8th, 1974. And at the time, my parents were actually living in Enumclaw. And Dad had a practice up there that he was, I think, helping another veterinarian with his practice. And then he had the opportunity to move back to the farm. And so they moved when I was 8 weeks old, I believe. I was very little when we moved back to the farmhouse, which is where Suzanne is living with her family. So we were raised there. Same education track. I went from Cherry Valley Elementary up to Tolt Junior Senior High School, graduated from there in '92. And then I went on to the University of Washington as well and got a BS in psychology. And then I went to Seattle Pacific University for my PhD, and then back to UW for my postdoc. And then I literally went to Children's right out of postdoc in 2008, and I've been there ever since.
Great. Do you have a specialty for your work?
Yeah, actually, well, I've done general psychiatry, which is kind of working with, anything. And I've actually done a lot of work with adults prior to children's, but now I specialize in autism. So, and even more narrowly, I specialize in mood and anxiety issues within people who have autism. So.
Wow. Well, thank you. Okay, so tell me about, so what is now it says Novelty Hill Barn on it is on the roundabout, and that was a part of your farm, and it still is?
So roundabout was that property that it's on was a part of the farm. It used to be, if you remember, I don't know how long you've been in the valley, but it used to be
5 years.
Okay. There was no roundabout. It was just the road, and then there was, the intersection there, and there was no light. It was just, go when you can. And so I don't remember when they put in the roundabout, but I feel like it was in the late 90s, maybe. Suze, do you remember?
Yeah. Bob, do you remember when the roundabout was put in? So the roundabout is part of the old farmhouse property, which is where we live. So Washington State had to take that to put in the roundabout. So that property with the house, it also used to have, there were a variety of buildings that were basically where the roundabout is now. Dance hall, a home, a store. Some of these buildings were kind of combined together, dual purpose. Gas station? Wait, I'm trying to remember everything, but there was
was there a church there too?
Yeah.
A church dance hall combo?
Well, I think those were separate. It was oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We're all talking at once.
I know. I knew this was going to be hard. I was like, okay, just be careful. The church was its own building on the hill, and we have pictures of that. You've probably seen pictures of that. And then the dance hall was actually down, the church was up on the hill. The dance hall was down on the main area. And that's where our grandparents actually met each other, in the dance hall. Yes, that was at the roundabout. So yes, we have pictures of the buildings, and then the farm itself had some outbuildings over that way. So it's interesting to look at pictures and see, there was a building there and there. And so there were a lot of buildings over time that just are gone now.
And that's really what they considered the town of Novelty. So that's like, when you see it, it'll show up on maps still as the town of Novelty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're happy to kind of keep that alive in the name of the farm. There was a lot of debate about what to call our farm, but we felt like we wanted to keep the name in it. So.
Well, and a lot of people think of Novelty Hill as across the valley. And I'm not sure why that one became known as Novelty, because it's actually Union Hill. The physical hill is Union Hill, and our farm is actually on Novelty Hill. But I sometimes wonder if it was like, maybe it was like the road to Novelty or something like that. And somehow it got the name Novelty Hill. So sometimes they'll call this hill Old Novelty, and the one across the valley people just refer to as
Oh, okay. And the barn, how long has the barn been there? Do you know?
So go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, the barn was built in 1932. It's the big barn, and then the big barn, we call it like the dairy barn, because that's where they milked the cows. And then there was the small barn that we often refer to as the calf barn. But then as we've learned more about the history of our farm, we now know that the calf barn is actually where they had a couple of horses, and they kept the bull there as well, the bull that they used for breeding, and then there were calves in there as well. So, but those buildings were built, I think, in 1932, hand-built by our grandfather, Vern Pickering, and our great-grandfather, Alf Pickering. And they used recycled wood from the church, the old
Yes.
Methodist church. I don't remember what kind of church it was, but yeah, they used recycled wood from the church.
Yes.
To build the barn.
So
That's
we
why
had
it's
wainscoting
yeah.
inside of the barn.
You
So,
had what? You had what?
wainscoting. Wainscoting.
A Wayne's.
The barn had wainscoting, so it was very fancy, I guess.
Oh, wow. What does the inside look
Yeah.
like? What does the inside look like now?
Well, it's on a new foundation, has a new floor. So it used to have all the features of a dairy barn. So we had to really remove that to make it accessible for the public. And we just really went over the top of that. So it has a big floor that can be used for a lot of events, and we've had dances there. That's pretty fun. And then otherwise it has a lot of the original wood and the old poles, and it's painted white. And so we did that in the last couple of years.
We received a couple of grants to do that work because the barn, oh, sorry, do you want to say something? The barn was actually too low compared to kind of the surrounding areas. It had not sunk, but the surrounding areas had built up to the point where we had water running through both buildings. And so we had a grant. We had a grant that was from the county, and then another grant that was matching it from the state to lift up the big barn, pour a new foundation, and kind of keep it higher so it won't get water going through it. And then we also got a grant that helped us redo all of the rotten siding, because there was siding that was pretty significantly rotten. And so we did that work. I think we got those grants in like 2015, 2016, something like that. I think they finalized in like 2017 or 2018, but we got all of that work done, and then that allowed us, I mean, we matched all of that money. We actually put quite a bit of our own funds into it as well.
They were all matching grants.
They were matching grants.
Sure.
And then we also were able to move our little calf barn from where it was really sinking and just getting water and mud through it throughout the year to, we moved it to higher ground on the other side of the big barn, and basically we had to rebuild the sides because they were so rotten. But yeah, it actually is a beautiful structure, and we're trying to do it in a way so that it is preserving how it looked before.
Yes.
So it's a fun and expensive project.
It feels good now because we know it's, at the moment, it's pretty safe, it's sound, it's in good condition. There were times where it was really concerning and we could have lost it. So we've got it to a good place. So we're pretty happy and proud of that, really.
We actually were so glad that we did it when we did, because last year, so to the 2019 snowstorm in February would have probably made our calf barn collapse if we hadn't moved it and already rebuilt the sides. So I feel like we came down to the wire, and we did the timing, but we were lucky that we made the decision we did. Otherwise, I think we would have lost the building.
Yeah.
What is your vision for use of the barn now and for
we're really starting that, and we've kind of already been doing that. You might know currently we sell pumpkins and Christmas trees, so we have a seasonal business, and we grow the pumpkins on the farm. We bring the trees in. So that's really been what we've been doing, and that's been since my twins were born in 2005. So we are currently doing that. The pumpkins we added more recently. The trees we've been doing all that time. So we'll continue to use the barn and the farm in that way. And we love to bring the public in and have, basically share it and let people experience it. And we have more animals as kids. We don't have as many now, but we bring in some animals during those times so kids can experience that, and families have enjoyed that. And then we have also now started renting it out as a space. And so we did have some weddings scheduled for this year. Those are canceled. But but it was really a new thing for us. So we weren't quite into that yet, but so that'll eventually happen. And then just we've had different events, we've had dances, we held some events ourselves, people rent the space. And we're just continuing to improve it so it's more of a rental location. We're still on the verge of being ready for weddings.
So our first wedding
on getting it better and ready for that.
Yeah, our first wedding was supposed to happen in 2 weeks, and it was this really nice couple from Seattle, and they were going to have just a really small wedding, and we were really bummed because we actually met with them in early March, and they were like, "We love it. This is exactly what we're looking for." And then, of course, everything with COVID hit, and we got an email shortly thereafter from them saying they just decided to postpone.
Understandably.
Our first wedding was going to be kind of a small event that I think it was going to be the perfect space for. So fingers crossed we'll be able to do that in the next couple of years.
It's wonderful. There isn't much, available for rentals around here, I don't think.
Yes. Well, and we are going to have some events, or we at least tentatively have some things scheduled. So Cedar Crest High School is, if we're at the right phase at the end of July, they're going to try and have their prom seniors only in the barn. So we're working toward that, hoping, keeping our fingers crossed that the kids will be able to still have that. And it's a space where you can park cars and possibly have an event that's a socially distanced event. So
and the word amassed ball takes on a new meaning.
So true.
Well, that's wonderful. How exciting. And I heard there's photographs. Is it inside or outside?
Yeah, I put together just a few poster boards basically that kind of summarize the history of our farm back to, the people who settled it, George and Emily back in 1884, and then all the way up through kind of present day. And then I have another one that's about our restoration projects for the barn. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty fun, and it is fun to watch people read it and get a fuller picture of why we're there and how long we've been there. And we get a lot of questions about it after they've read through kind of the history. So it's pretty fun.
Oh my gosh. So do you have your family tree on there then, or?
We do not.
I just did pictures, like old pictures, and then all the more modern day pictures, and then just wrote the history.
Yeah.
I should email you. I should email you the interview that your dad did, my transcription of it.
Oh yes, that would be great.
I mean, you can have the audio, but nobody really listens usually to a whole audio. But if you like,
well.
The funny thing,
pretty interesting to us.
Yeah, well, he's a very, very intelligent man.
Yes.
And your mom did come through and say that when there's a family reunion in the summer and the brothers, that's when there's somebody should be there recording stories.
Yeah, all the kids together.
So you definitely need to, that generation and
I know.
Catch it now if you can record those.
I agree.
That's a good idea. It's such a good reminder because I think we take it for granted that we can share the stories because we've heard so many stories over our lifetime of different things that have happened on the farm, different characters and the history of the farm. But I don't know if we've ever fully written it down. And so thank you for interviewing our dad as a part of that because we know he has lots of stories.
I never met him before, but he's a man after my heart with his passion for the earth, for the environment, and
the
future for children of the future. And oh my gosh,
definitely.
I haven't run into that a lot in Duval.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little smaller part of the population, probably.
I know.
Yeah,
We are equally as passionate as our dad. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, there is this, and then there's the whole hippie thing. So yeah, I'm learning. What else would you like to tell me about the history of the farm or history of
there's
the
some other things that might be interesting in terms of the education piece that kind of runs through our family. We obviously, my sister is a teacher, and my grandmother was a teacher. She was a teacher for a long time in the Valley. My dad probably mentioned that to you as well.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I mean, my grandmother was, I think her first job was teaching in a one-room schoolhouse at Stillwater. And so I've seen some really interesting pictures come through recently on one of the Facebook boards of all of the old schools that used to be here. And one of them was actually here on our property, essentially. Just, it was called the Novelty School. And it was, I don't remember the years it ran, but we can get that information for you.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It was a one-room schoolhouse, and they have all of these old pictures of like the kids, you know, hanging out on the roof.
They were sitting on top of buildings. It's a pretty neat picture. I'm pretty sure the Historical Society has a lot of these, and they're probably published in some of the different books. But
yeah, if I go online, you know, actually you can do that. Google Duval Historical Society, go into their website.
Yes.
You can get into the archives and all the there's old newspapers now on there. They got a grant to digitalize some, and
so I
have to do more.
I've done a lot of research into the Monroe Monitor and the Monroe newspapers, because really they included Duval in their announcements. So, and I'm keeping track of the genealogy, and I've gone way too far back. I've spent a lot of time, but I have a lot of about the family and the Pickerings before in England. And so anyhow, so we do have a lot more information as well going back. But yeah, my grandparents, Mildred and Vernie, it's pretty interesting just to learn about them, and they were really an important part of the community, and just have interesting stories with them. So.
Wow, that's amazing. I think you're very fortunate in your upbringing and to be born into the family you are, and how unusual to go back to the town you were raised in.
Yeah, I think my parents often remark how thankful they are that we live on the farm. And for a time, my brother lived here too with his wife and their daughter. So it is really unusual to have that kind of family bond that's also connected to the land that you're on.
Yes.
So it's like a magnet.
Yeah.
I years ago, I'm talking about 25 years ago, I think my husband mentioned to me something about, it might be fun to move somewhere. And I burst into tears. I didn't even know the tears were going to come. Like, I didn't even know the question was going to come. I burst into tears.
Oh my.
It would be kind of like ripping me away. I think there's just this bond, and it's kind of with the land and the barn, and there's this very strong attachment. So I don't know if it's genetically you just, you have that in you, but there's this big attachment to this land. So
and to be close to each other as sisters. And then, be able to go through the aging parent and aging relative together.
We are in that, really.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure. We have to keep a little bit of an eye on my dad, because he'll get into projects that maybe are a little bit over his head, just because he's always been an adventurous guy. Like, he likes to get out. He loves to drive the tractor. He likes to dig in the ditch, and I think it's balancing that with an aging body, right? So trying to figure out how to, help him do all the things he wants to do, and also make sure he's safe.
Yes, we lovingly call him the free range chicken.
Mhm.
We never know where he might be. He's out there somewhere. We try to keep tabs on him. He's a little bit rebellious, you know, which is very endearing, I think, to most people.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And isn't that great? And people that are that, you know, determined live a lot longer.
Yes, yes.
That
We have to keep him
passionate.
safe.
Yeah.
So, and his own father, you know, was probably a little bit the same way. He was in his 70s and he was, you know, still out doing some of the jobs that maybe he shouldn't have been doing on the farm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
honestly, his mom too, Mickey Pickering, was, you know,
Oh.
she lived to be 99,
And a
and
half.
she had a very strong will.
Yes.
And she would do things like she was not supposed to be like mowing her lawn.
Okay.
Much older. And she would go out and do one strip, and then she'd go into the house and like rest, and then she'd go back out and do another strip, go into the house and rest. So there's definitely a strong will in our family.
Yes, very much so.
And you'll have it too. Yay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There'll be these old 99-year-old ladies that are determined to stay in their own home.
It's very likely.
Yes.
I think throwing barn parties for sure. Square dancing the night away. Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, one of the things I have to highlight that now we're doing an annual barn party in our barn, and we always do square dancing and have a live band. And this last year we had Swift and Savory come out and do food for us, and we had a bar, and it was so much fun. I mean, I think we had like 250 people. And obviously we're not sure if we can do it this year yet. But I do have to say it's one of my favorite moments in the barn because it's just so fun, and I think wholesome entertainment. Like people love square dancing, even if they think they don't love square dancing, they come and have a great time.
Memories for the young people to build.
I actually know people who I used to throw these barn parties when I was like just out of college, and I know at least a couple couples who met at our barn and got married.
Well, and Grandma and Grandpa met dancing at the dance hall.
Right.
So we definitely have a dancing thing going on for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe lessons too for some.
Well, yes, my 18-year-old said yesterday, Mom, I really want to learn how to dance better and swing dance and all the old dances. And I said, well,
yeah.
I wouldn't mind your mother would dance with you. He said, no, that's fine. And I thought, I know.
Love that.
So where do you advertise? Do you use, is it just Facebook or?
A lot of Facebook.
Instagram and Facebook. We have
and friends.
And then we have a website. We often want it to be more of the local community because I have found, because there was we had put on a tree lighting this last Christmas, and I didn't realize that it was going to be so popular, and I really meant for it to be just a free event for our local people to come down and do this, and instead, you know, it was seen by like 6,000 people, and over 1,000 people said they were interested or coming, and they were from, you know, Bellevue, Seattle, which is great. I love that. But we really meant for it to be just kind of a small community. The
community,
like
your novelty.
Yeah,
we had no idea.
I felt, I mean, so I think what we try to do, like with the barn party, is send it we send it to our friends, and people are welcome to invite their friends. So we're really going to try to keep it more centric.
Yeah.
So
we really want it to be community based. Yeah. So that's our goal.
Do you have any livestock now or pet animals on your compound?
We
you guys are one of these Northwest compounds now, we hear.
I know. At least for me, we did have animals growing up, and I think we recognize how much work they are, and we all work outside the home except for right now, but we're still working. And we don't have livestock right now. And the farm, as we've been improving it, we haven't really had time to put in the infrastructure for animals. I think we would love to probably have more, but we've been bringing in animals during the season with, for pumpkins. And we had some rabbits for a while. We actually have them farmed out to friends, because the kids love to play with rabbits and hold rabbits. But no, we don't have livestock back on the farm yet. But I think in the future we'll probably have some animals. So
my dad would love to have animals back on the farm. It's kind of his passion. His initial passion for veterinary work was because of cows, right? That was kind of why he got into it.
So interesting.
So he would love to do that. Like Sue said, I think we just have to get the infrastructure and make sure that we have the bandwidth to take care of them. Because, yes, we all have day jobs. We're all in the thick of parenting kids. So if anything, we have a flock of children that we're raising right now. And
that's right.
Eventually, I think we would love to have, if anything, I think we'd love to have some cows, because that was really our background and our family's heritage. But we do bring in goats, and yes, we have bunnies that will come back to us in the fall. We've had chickens, and so that's all stuff that we kind of bring in for the fall in various ways. And then eventually we'd love to have our own too.
I fantasize about having 2 draft horses. And I'm pretty sure it's fantasy, but yeah, they're just beautiful. I've always loved them. My dad would always show us the draft horses, and then he would have friends or clients that would have draft horses. So, and then I know the stories of Dick and Dan, the draft horses that worked on the farm way back when. We find old horseshoes around, and so yeah. So I definitely I think about that. So it's a romantic notion.
Part of our issue is that our big barn and now our calf barn are really used for other things, because we want to be able to rent them out and do weddings. And so you can't really have animals living in that space. And so my dream is we have a little area back here on our property that I would love to turn into just a small horse barn for that reason, and have maybe a couple of horses.
Yes.
And we love to raise meat if we can. So we just actually have to build up, ironically, some type of barn.
We need a barn
that we could actually use for animals.
Yes.
Because right now, really, our big barn, it's just too precious, I think, to actually use it for.
It is. It's special.
It's really, it's really a kind of the centerpiece of more of the public life of what we want to do on the farm. So.
Well, may I ask a little about the changes that you've seen in your lifetimes and looking into fall? Does that disturb you? Are there changes that that you understand?
I mean, we've seen lots of changes. I guess I think I have a different perspective than maybe some of the people I went to school with. And I mean, I'll let Steph share hers, but I think a lot of people who grew up here and are really upset by all the changes. And, there are certain changes that have been hard for me to see. I guess because I've been raising my kids the last 18 years, and I've connected to so many new people that have moved in, and I feel I have the people that I was connected to when I was a kid. And then I have new people that I'm connected to now. And I just feel so connected that I just, I don't know, I kind of have embraced, I guess, the change that's happened with people coming in. I do worry about what will 20 more years look like? Because yes, Duval's expanded out. But I think this is with our family, it's, community is so important. And the farmers way back when, they relied on one another. And we rely on our community and raising our kids. And I'll probably have a little different community after my kids go off. And I just love the community. And I feel like we're a part of kind of this next phase of the community. Yes, we have a farm, but it's not really being run as a farm exactly. But we've opened it up to share it with the community, and we're trying to preserve it. So it's still a green space and something that people can come and connect to the history and learn. And so my experience has mostly been positive. I mean, there are some buildings I'd like to go take down. Things that have been built that I wasn't really excited about. But yeah, I guess, yeah, there's going to be some of that. I'm not ready to run off and move away and head to Montana or Eastern Washington or anything. So I still love living here, and I love the connections and people. So
yeah, so
Steph.
I was going to say I resonate with all of the things that Suzanne just said. I also lived in Seattle for some years when I was in college and graduate school, and just always loved being able to come back to the farm as really a break from kind of the hustle and bustle of the city. And so I always want Duval to be that way. Like, I always hope that it has this sense of like, you're in the country and you're away from that. And I think that's what actually draws people to this, because we're so close to all the important things in life. We can drive to Seattle in 30 minutes, but we can still feel like we live in the country.
yeah.
And so I think for me, because it's a floodplain, and partially because, where we are specifically in Novelty, like, it's not like we have houses springing up right on our property. Like, it is in, it's unincorporated King County. And so we have larger plots, and we don't have like a development in our backyard. I think we might feel differently if that was the case. But we still have, I think, this kind of magical, spacious, green farmland that feels like home to me, and also feels like the dream of the country for other people. And so I think that's a part of what we love about living here. I think if development were to start to threaten those pieces for us, that we would have a stronger aversion to it. But for now, really, it's like, all the developments are kind of in Duval, and have actually, I think, in a lot of ways added to our community in a nice, beautiful diversity way. So I think there are probably limits. Like, that's the thing that I think we wonder is like, how many people can we have in Duval and still preserve that sense of the country, right? And a little bit slower life.
Well, I think we're running into problems with it for sure. Is there overdevelopment? Do we have too many people coming in and out of the valley with it being on a floodplain? And yes, I think we definitely have some community challenges around that. I'm not sure that everyone that moves out understands where they're moving.
Yes, exactly. And I will say, as somebody who
disasters,
when I commute to work, I definitely, is probably the biggest time where I'm like, I don't know how many more people we could have out here and still make it a reasonable place to live in terms of living, commuting into Redmond or Seattle or wherever you're commuting.
And I would have a different point of view if I were commuting out of the valley every day. I teach in the valley. There are some times where I realize it has been a long time since I've been out of the valley. So I have a somewhat of a limited point of view, because I'm able to be in the valley, and I don't, when it floods, I can still go to my job. There's more traffic, but I'm still only driving to Duval.
I will say that COVID highlighted for me, at least, I have not been to work since March 19th. And I think, but when I was still commuting, even after Amazon had shut down and Microsoft had shut down, my commute became a breeze. I was like, what? Like, I can get from door to door in like 35 minutes, from here to Children's. And so I think it did highlight for me and make me wonder about other solutions to our traffic issues. Like, if people were to really take what we're learning during this COVID time and be like, how can we solve our commute issues or traffic issues in maybe other unique and creative ways. Because that is one thing that I definitely enjoyed for about 2 weeks when I was still going to work and a lot of people weren't working, weren't going to work. I was like, oh wow, we can solve this issue. So.
Yeah, wow. Can you just, I won't want to take you too much longer, but maybe if you could tell me about your own families, and then I want to end with a little bit about your thoughts and experience about the social isolation and the coronavirus experience for you, because I don't know if either of you are writers, but we're trying to document this because this is history right now. It's huge.
Really
And so I think that's our job, is to try to document that for the future.
And we're so grateful that you are doing this. Like, what a wonderful thing that you're doing, and something that's going to benefit, our kids and their kids. And so thank you.
Oh, it's so much fun.
And speaking of writing, I think a lot of teachers have done this, but we're explaining how important that is to students, to kids, and some of the writing that we've done recently with kids has been based on their experience and how do you document this. And so I spent probably a couple of weeks having the kids write and document their experience, and that's what our lessons were about. So I know that kids are producing actually a lot of writing right now.
Wow, that's wonderful.
It would be interesting to collect, actually.
Yes.
So that it exists and is in homes all over.
Yes. Well, I'm wondering, if you know a way that teachers or, if with kids' permission could send me some writings.
Well, I wonder if that's something that we could put out to the community, and parents could talk to their children and see if they would, I bet if you put a call out to families, I would think that we would probably be able to get a lot of very interesting writing from kids.
Yeah.
It's already
fascinating. Written. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it can be kept forever on our digital archives in the cloud. So.
Okay. Well, that's a really good idea, and I'd be happy to be a part of helping with something like that. So, that would be great.
So tell me about your children.
So my oldest is 18. So we are going through the whole experience of being a graduating senior. And we didn't get photographs done before all of this happened. So we're figuring out, how do we do senior photos? At some point, photographers will be able to do that. So we're going to have late photos. We're figuring out, what do we do about senior prom? What do we do about graduation? Plans are in the works for both, but we don't, even now, there are a lot of ideas for graduation, and we're getting information about it from the high school. But you really have two things going on. The high school is planning certain things, and then families are trying to plan other things. And so, and it's just basically being creative and innovative. I think there's been a lot of innovation done in probably a lot of areas, I can say for sure, in education. And so we're trying to figure out, what that's all going to look like. And, there's a lot of mixed emotions. I'm in my group of friends. We've been Zooming probably once a month or so, and we're graduating seniors, and how sad we are.
Yeah, a lot of grief.
Photos. Well, there's just a normal sadness when you have a child graduate anyway, because you're reflecting on all those years and going, oh, it's the childhood is gone. I have this young adult. And then kind of feel like you're missing out on, I'm going to watch him walk down the graduation aisle, and that's a little hard. But I think we'll find ways to get around it. I'm fortunate in a way. Maybe it's because I have boys, I don't know. But Tanner, he's like, it's okay. I'm like, is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. So we just picked up his graduation cap and gown yesterday. So we're all ready. and he's in Running Start. So he, all of his classes have become online. It's been a very easy transition for him to do, and it's been easy for me. Fortunately, I don't really have to do much about his education. He takes care of it, and he's home. Oh, that's the other thing. Our seniors who would normally be out socializing all the time are all home. So all of us moms are really enjoying that, and we realize when that Band-Aid gets ripped off, whatever that it's really gonna hurt. Because I think when all those kids are able to get together again, they could be off. So and then I have 14-year-old twin boys who are very busy, very active boys, and they are, they're at the middle school, they're in 8th grade. They are having a very hard time motivating themselves to do their schoolwork. I can't say that is going very well. That's been a challenge, a big challenge.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard from a lot of families, even families with kids where they've got the straight A student, their kids are not, lots of kids are struggling with motivation right now. So, and getting things done. So, and then I have my 11-year-old who also happens to be in my class this year. I don't know, have I said everyone's name? So Tanner's my 18-year-old. Tyler and Dylan are my twins who are 14. And then Devin is my 11-year-old, and he's in my class in school. So what I'm really busy doing during the day is preparing and teaching my class. I teach at Hillside Academy in Duval. And I have a small class. I only have 9 kids in my class. So in that way, that's really a blessing.
I live right there on Anderson.
Yes. Yeah. So, and we're so connected. So it makes it pretty easy for me in that sense. It's been a lot of planning. I spend so much time planning. I've figured out some ways to make that go better by now. But I've been shocked at how time consuming it is. And I just had to revamp and rethink everything and do some things that I would never have done in the class, but I'm gonna do it now because this is what we're dealing with. Our school is a real hands-on, science-oriented school, so it's been challenging. But we're figuring it out, and I think we get done earlier than the public school, so all of us, we actually only have 2 weeks left, so I think all of us, my families and my kids, I know, Steph's like, oh. So yeah, so we're counting the days at this point and gonna wrap up the year. And actually, Stephanie, I don't know if I've told you yet, we're hoping to do a graduation for our schools, kindergartners, 5th graders, and 8th graders at the farm. In cars. I know, they'll graduate, basically it's an FM radio station, so everyone's in their own car and they're parked in the lot, and they'll get their certificates and things like that. So that's coming up in a few weeks. But yeah, I'm looking at the end, and I'm thankful for the timing of all of this, that we've had the spring and summer to look forward to, just we're on the cusp of that. I do have concerns thinking about the future, thinking about if we have to do this during winter in the Northwest.
Yeah.
That's hard to
go bananas. Yeah.
But I realize that, I have to be prepared for anything for this next year. So yeah. Oh, and then I would say my husband is Bob, and he is in commercial construction, and their jobs are all shut down right now. So he's been home, and we have a property in Eastern Washington. So we've been improving that property. We just bought it a year ago. And so he's been over there, and we don't have water there yet. So we're kind of getting that all improved, and that's our little vacation spot. So it's been like camping over there. I anticipate we'll have vast improvements this summer there because we've had all this time. So basically he's been remodeling well.
Nice.
So we're getting ready to enjoy hopefully some summertime, and maybe we'll even be able to have more of the family. We've really on the farm been social distancing, even from Stephanie's family, from my parents. We've been pretty strict about it. So I'm hoping this summer we'll be able to do
Yeah.
more getting together and just kind of open that up a little bit, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks. How about you, Stephanie?
So my family, so my husband Greg, and I both work in basically the medical community. So he runs a small lab that's a hospital-based lab. And so watching him kind of go into action in terms of figuring out how to, they're doing COVID testing. He's out delivering tests to his the clinics that he works with. And so we definitely had a little bit of a frontline taste there without obviously having any direct patient contact. But his lab runs tests and I think the antibody testing now too. So it's been interesting because, we've stayed home. Basically, the last time I went to work was March 19th at Children's. And my work totally shifted to telemedicine really quickly because you can do a lot of mental health work that way. And so I work with a team of psychologists, and we all kind of put our heads together and trying to figure out the best ways to deliver both individual therapy and our group. We do group for anxiety treatment and parenting support and things like that. So definitely felt like we went into like probably Sue's, where it's like you're actually working more because you're trying to figure out how to adapt what you did in real life to online. So tons and tons of energy went into that, and I found it to be a pretty exhausting time just to kind of shift everything over to Zoom and figure everything out and make sure I have all my consents and my safety forms and just all sorts of stuff. So that's been really interesting. I will say Children's Hospital has been a great place to be working during this time. Lots of great leadership, lots of great updates. Obviously, a lot of people on the front lines. And so kind of being a part of that has felt, kind of nice on some level, just to get a lot of updates and, innovation. So that's been kind of my job. And of course, we're struggling because my kids are, Clara is 10 and she's a fourth grader at Stillwater Elementary. And then Parker is 8 and he is a second grader at Stillwater. And so all of that too, right? Like trying to figure out how do we balance helping them get their schoolwork done while I'm trying to do my job and Greg's trying to do his job. And my mom living next door, she was a big part of just a person who would come in who could be with the kids while we had to go or have them after school. And so totally lost all of that support as well, which is appropriate because both my parents are in more of the vulnerable category. So we have really stayed distant from them. They'll come and maybe be on our porch while we're inside, things like that. For the most part, they really haven't been a part of our world during this time. So that's kind of something we're grieving at the same time as trying to figure out our new normal. And the kids, honestly, to be honest, I feel like within our family, I feel really lucky because we all like each other quite a bit. And so having that intense time together has not felt has actually felt kind of nice because we realize there's a complete absence of fear of missing out or FOMO, right? There's no party that we're not going to make it to. There's no sport that we didn't sign up for that we don't, get to go to. So that has actually felt like this really nice, slower pace of life that on some level we've been forced to embrace, but then also are really enjoying now that we're in it. And I think are asking ourselves, how do we incorporate that back into life as eventually we get back to a more normal.
Someday there's going to be things we miss.
Yes. And we've been able to feel like we've just been able to do more family time, more games, more creative things. I feel like I know more about what's going on in my kids' school world because I'm there, trying to help them with it. So I think that's been really nice. Of course, my kids, in their own way are grieving the social element of school. I think they miss seeing their friends. And so we've had to do what most people are doing where kids are connecting virtually in different ways, video games or Zoom, but still, of course, not the same. So yeah, and then we are good friends with our neighbors at Local Roots, and so we've done some socially distant dinners with them, and our kids are close, and so we'll do socially distant play.
Yeah,
And the kids have actually been really responsible, and it's been nice to see them, figuring out games like shadow tag, or like they call it socially distant tag. I don't even know what they've come up with creative ways to still enjoy their time together.
Kids will do that.
Kids are very resilient, and I realize, and being in my job, I know that that's, there's every household is so different, and there's definitely households where this is just a real strain and causing so much more anxiety or depression. So I think we are every day pretty aware of and feel a lot of gratitude for our situation here.
And I would add one thing, just my twins. People have asked, how are they doing? Because I would say my 18-year-old's really missing his social circles. And this just speaks to our times. And my boys, they are hanging out with their small group of guy friends all the time.
Online.
Okay.
However much I hate it.
Yeah.
Now let's turn the screen off. Let's turn the screen off. I mean, I'm saying that a lot, but honestly, I think for them, that's their social outlet, and they're pretty content, and they are in tune to what's going on with their friends.
Wow.
Part of it probably has to do with my particular boys and the technology they like to do. They play competitive games with their friends online. So, because I have my opinions about technology and they have theirs, and they are very different. But I think in this case, and I'm understanding it, that it's actually probably been helpful to them. It's hard for mom to say that, but I think it's actually been helpful to them.
Yeah, it's so true.
So yeah, it's just a little commentary on technology, because that's a big one for us parents right now, that we are challenged by that. How do we handle it?
I will say one more thing that relates a little bit more to the farm too. For me during this time, the Snoqualmie Valley Trail runs right through our farm, because that's where the railroad used to run. And so we have access to it. It's just right in front of my house, essentially. But for a time, the Snoqualmie Valley Trail was even closed. And so I started a daily routine of listening to an audiobook and taking my dog for a walk, just me, down in our valley fields. We've got 40 acres down there.
Yeah.
I have to say, I so look forward to it. It's something I would have never thought I had time for previously. And now I'm like, it feels like it's a necessity. Reading my book, taking my dog for a walk, and just wandering around in the valley in these lower fields that are just so beautiful. And it's been so much joy for me to just watch our property come to life in the last few months, like starting in March when it was all bare leaves, and there was, and I could see all the buildings in the area. Now it's like almost overnight, it just turned into this lush, green, beautiful valley that we all I'm sure have witnessed. So I will say that there's definitely, as much as this has been a really hard time, it's also been like these really important and unexpected silver linings that I really want to figure out how to continue after this. And part of that for me has just been enjoying the farm, enjoying the beauty that we get to live in every day.
It challenges us to rethink a lot of things.
That is amazing. Wow. Well, thank you so much. You've both been so very generous with your time, and I know that's a challenge for you. Any other last thoughts, or do you have any?
Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
Like, we're just so glad
You're
that
welcome.
Time and that you're interested in our little world. Like, it's
Thank you. Oh, well, next fall maybe I can come out and look at the pumpkins and try out for out there.
And if you wanted to come and get a personal tour when it's appropriate, we would be happy to do that as well.
Thank you. So if you are meeting somebody just moving here, to move to Duval, what advice would you give?
I guess it would depend on where they are in their life. And, you know, if they have kids, I'd probably direct them to, you know, ways to connect with families. And yeah, I think connecting and getting connected in the community somehow is very important. And there's a great community here. And there is, I mean, there is some diversity, and hopefully everyone can find their niche somewhere. So that's one thing.
Yeah, I think I love this question. I think exactly what Sue said, like getting connected, it really makes it feel like home, right? This is where your friends are, and there's just so many lovely families, and it really is the thing that makes it feel like home. The other piece of advice that I would give them are probably pretty random snippets of things like you should know that it floods, and and when it floods.
I hope you know.
Yeah, and I have to tell you this story. I was down I actually went for a run to Duval the other day, and I was sitting on the riverbanks, and I saw this family out there, and there was a dad with a few kids on his little raft, and then a mom who was a little, further up the river, and they were trying to paddle up the river, and they were talking to somebody ahead of them, and the dad was just going backwards because the river is so strong right now. And I was like, what are they doing? And then I hear the lady say, so where did you say the beach is? And I was like,
I think I would say the river is very dangerous. Be careful.
That's a place to be safe. But it's those kinds of things that as people who've lived here for a long time, we just know the valley, we know the seasons. You're not going to find a great beach this time of year up on, don't paddle upriver in general, like I think when people live here, they're going to experience it. They're going to not always be prepared, but I would probably give a bunch of snippets of things that I, previously I probably wouldn't have even thought to tell people.
No.
I assume people would know, but that's just.
Say, don't drive your car through a road that's closed.
Yes. And we still do have wild animals. There are wild animals out there. So just it's just a certain awareness that it's not Bellevue or Redmond anymore.
You're going to hear people shooting their guns. People are going to shoot their guns. You're going to hear
it.
Yeah.
Sometimes the air may smell from the farms.
There's
a certain thing.
Noticed.
There's a thing going on here. So.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope to meet you in person someday.
Great.
And it's very, very rich. I really appreciate everything.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
Peace to you. Have a wonderful day. Please say hi to your mom and dad.
All righty.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.